Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You're listening to Daily C1 English Vocabulary. My name is Emma.
And my name is Tom. Today we're exploring 12 powerful words and expressions that will help you sound more natural and sophisticated in both everyday and professional English. Let's get started.
Let's start with a phrase you'll hear whenever someone talks about change. Turning point. A turning point is the moment when an important change takes place.
For example, meeting her mentor was the turning point in her career. She started applying for more ambitious roles. Hiring a new coach was a turning point for the team. Their results improved almost immediately. Winning their first major client was a turning point for the company. It gave them the credibility to attract bigger contracts.
Now let's compare it with a similar expression. Tipping point. A tipping point is the moment when a series of small changes finally becomes significant enough to cause a larger, often sudden effect.
For example, the third price increase was the tipping point. Customers started looking for cheaper alternatives. Or, we've hit a tipping point with our workload. We either hire more people or everything just breaks. While a turning point simply marks a moment of change, a tipping point emphasizes that pressure had been building gradually until it reached a critical threshold.
Our next word is overhaul, and it can be used both as a noun and as a verb. As a noun, an overhaul is a complete rework of something, usually because the old version isn't working well anymore.
For example, the factory underwent a complete overhaul of its production line. Customer frustration reached a tipping point, and we finally had to overhaul the entire app.
As a verb, to overhaul something means to rework it completely, replacing or improving the parts that no longer work well. The government plans to overhaul the entire healthcare system over the next decade. The new CEO overhauled the company's outdated management structure within his first year.
This word is moderately formal and appears frequently in business, politics, and technical writing. Compared to change or update, overhaul suggests something far more thorough and structural. Not a small adjustment, but a fundamental rebuilding from the ground up.
Moving on to a verb that captures dramatic rising, soar. To soar means to rise quickly and powerfully, either literally, like a bird or aircraft, or figuratively, referring to prices, emotions, or performance.
For example, the eagle soared above the mountains, barely moving its wings. Or, house prices have soared in the last 2 years, making it nearly impossible for young families to buy. Her confidence soared after she delivered the presentation flawlessly. Compared to rise or increase, soar implies speed and impressiveness. Prices don't just rise, they soar when the increase feels dramatic and almost uncontrollable.
Now let's look at a verb with a more negative connotation. Hinder. To hinder means to create difficulty for someone or something, delaying progress or making it harder to achieve a goal. For example, the heavy rain hindered the rescue efforts, slowing the team down considerably. A lack of funding has long hindered scientific research in the region.
Hinder is rather formal and appears often in academic, legal, and professional writing. Compared to stop or prevent, hinder doesn't necessarily mean something is completely blocked. It means progress is slowed or made more difficult. You can still succeed despite being hindered, but it will take longer or require more effort.
Now let's look at a few useful phrasal verbs. Let's start with pile up. Pile up means things accumulate over time until there's a lot of them, and it usually feels like too much to handle.
For example, the dirty dishes piled up in the sink all week, or unpaid bills kept piling up until he finally sat down to deal with them.
It's also used figuratively for non-physical things. She tried to stay positive, but all the resentment and frustration just kept piling up inside.
Pile up is informal to neutral and very common in everyday spoken English. Compared to accumulate, pile up feels more visual and immediate, and often carries a sense of things getting out of control.
Moving on to a phrasal verb that describes a disappointing ending, fizzle out. Fizzle out means something starts off strong or promising, but slowly loses steam and ends up going nowhere.
For example, the protest movement had huge support at first, but it fizzled out within a few months. Their romance was intense at the beginning, but it slowly fizzled out over the following year. There was a lot of excitement at the start, but the movement slowly fizzled out.
This phrasal verb is informal and conversational. Compared to end or fail, fizzle out highlights the gradual, almost quiet way something loses energy, rather than a sudden or dramatic collapse.
Now, a phrasal verb about commitment and consistency. Stick to. To stick to something means to continue doing it without giving up, or to remain faithful to a plan, decision, or set of rules.
For example, she made a resolution in January and actually stuck to it all year. If we stick to the original budget, we should finish the project on time. He's always stuck to his values, even when it wasn't convenient.
Stick to is informal to neutral. Compared to follow or maintain, stick to conveys a sense of willpower and resistance to temptation or distraction.
Our next word is an adjective describing a lack of organization. Scattered. Scattered means spread out irregularly over an area, without any clear pattern or order. It can describe physical objects. Papers were scattered all over his desk. There will be scattered showers throughout the afternoon. My family is scattered all over the world.
Figuratively, it can describe thoughts or attention. Her thoughts felt scattered after the stressful week, and she couldn't focus on anything. I'm sorry, I'm a bit scattered today. I haven't had my coffee yet. Compared to spread out, scattered adds a sense of randomness and disorder rather than a deliberate or even distribution.
Now let's explore an adjective that's become fashionable in modern conversation. Low-key. Low-key means simple, quiet, and not trying to attract too much attention. If something is low-key, it is calm, simple, and relaxed, rather than big, flashy, or intense.
For example, we had a low-key celebration at home instead of a big party. She's a low-key person who prefers small gatherings to large crowds.
Low-key can also be used informally as an adverb. In this case, it softens what you say. It can mean a little, kind of, or quietly, without making the feeling sound too strong. For example, I'm low-key proud of how this project turned out. This means I'm proud, but I'm saying it in a modest, understated way, not as a big announcement or a boast.
You might also hear, I'm low-key stressed about the deadline. That means I'm a bit stressed, but I'm expressing it casually without making it sound too dramatic.
Low-key is informal and common in casual conversation. Compared to words like quiet or simple, low-key adds a sense of relaxed restraint. It suggests that something is intentionally kept calm, modest, and not too attention-seeking.
Our next adjective describes a particular kind of busyness. Hectic. Hectic means extremely busy, full of activity, rush, or confusion, often to a stressful degree.
For example, mornings in our house are absolutely hectic, with 3 kids getting ready for school at once. The airport was hectic, with long lines, delayed flights, and people rushing everywhere.
Hectic is neutral in formality and used constantly in everyday conversation about work, family life, and travel. Compared to busy, hectic suggests a chaotic, almost overwhelming intensity, not just a full schedule, but one that feels rushed and slightly out of control.
Now let's move on to our idioms. Let's talk about changing focus fast. Switch gears. To switch gears means to move from one activity, topic, or approach to a completely different one, quickly and on purpose.
After 2 hours of discussing the budget, we switched gears and started talking about marketing. The team had planned to expand quickly, but after the market changed, they had to switch gears and focus on cutting costs.
It comes from driving, where changing gears adjusts your speed and power. Switch gears is informal to neutral and common in both workplace and everyday conversation. Compared to change direction, it implies a sharper, more deliberate jump, often between 2 very different kinds of tasks.
And finally, our last expression, one you'll hear in discussions about compromise. Strike a balance. Strike a balance means to find a good middle ground between 2 different needs, goals, or pressures. If you strike a balance, You do not choose one side completely. Instead, you try to give enough attention to both sides.
For example, she tried to strike a balance between work and family life. Or, the company had to strike a balance between keeping prices low and maintaining high quality.
Compared to simply saying find a balance, strike a balance sounds a bit more deliberate. It suggests that finding the right balance takes effort, judgment, and careful adjustment.
So there you have it. 12 words and expressions that will sharpen your English and give you the tools to speak with more precision and confidence.
From recognizing a turning point and calling for an overhaul, to watching prices soar and obstacles hinder progress. From letting tasks pile up or plans fizzle out, to learning to stick to your goals despite scattered thoughts and a hectic schedule.
From keeping things low-key to knowing when to switch gears and how to strike a balance. These words will make you sound more confident, more natural, and more sophisticated in everything you say.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time.